some basic fundamentals on the concept of the 5 elements of traditional Chinese medicine. And you might have heard of it also with regards to feng shui, how to design your apartment and whatnot. So the 5 elements really are essential to understanding how TCM is operating. And its core concept is not, ooh, there's 5 elements, let's ensure that we really get this one to grow at the cost or at the sake of all the other elements. That's not the direction of TCM. The direction of TCM and the 5 elements concept is that all these 5 elements ideally are in a balance so that they can nourish each other instead of harming or impeding each other. And what are the 5 elements? It is, play with me, one element is water. The next element is wood. We have fire, we have earth, and we have metal. So these are the 5 elements, and they are in a certain progression. So maybe this is water, wood, fire, earth, and metal. And then, as it's a circle, let's look at this graph here. It goes back from metal to water. So it's really the 5 elements. Instead of my 5 fingers flat, think of them as a circle, kind of-ish. And they really are nourishing each other. And if we think about that, water really helps, like in the spring, when there's lots of water, lots of rain, depending where you live, of course. But with lots of water, lots of rain, suddenly out of the earth there grows little plants and trees. They're really getting their leaves and they're in bloom. So water births, nourishes wood. Like you really can see that the woods literally are coming alive when there's more water in the spring due to the rain. So water nourishes wood. Wood, on the other hand, nourishes fire. When you have lots of wood, you can create lots of fire. Without wood, at least in the ancient times, it was difficult to create a fire because they did not have the crude oil and all of that yet, or didn't find its worth. So we have water, wood, fire. Fire, on the other hand, though it can be very destructive, it can also be a fertilizer for the earth. So while it's burning down wood, it does help the soil to repair, to re-energize, to remineralize. So in certain amounts, fire is very, very beneficial for earth. And earth, however, what does earth birth? Like lots of the gold rush and the gold mines or the lithium rush. In the earth, they're the metal elements. And how can we bring back the circle from metal to water? I don't know. I haven't found that connection yet. But those are the 5 elements, how they're really nourishing one another. And then there's also the destructive version within those elements when they're not in a good balance. And not necessarily destructive. As a first thing, it's more controlling, restraining, keeping within a limit, keeping within the framework. That's what those elements are also doing, so that not one grows excessively and becomes dangerous and causes disease. So that then the more, let's say, the brake pedal within your car, like the gas pedal is the cycle which I've just mentioned. They nourish each other, they give food to each other, whereas this cycle, which I'm going to explain, is more like the brake pedal. It can break it down slowly so it's not excessively impeded, or it can really go to a full stop and that other element is completely impeded. And we'll look at that. What is it? So water, as it was starting with water, nourishes the ground so that wood can grow. Water, on the other hand, skips one element and it extinguishes fire. So obviously, that's usually the first remedy, depending what kind of fire, of course, but water extinguishes fire. Fire, on the other hand, is so hot it can melt metal. Metal, on the other hand, is capable and powerful that it can cut down wood. So that's also happening. And wood, on the other hand, can be so draining and nourishing, depleting to earth that it really extinguishes the energy of earth. And then if there's too much earth, it destroys water. Like in a good way, it's when there's a flooding, we have sand sacks and all of that to stop the water from going further. So lots of earth, too little water. So that's how those elements kind of also keep a healthy limit to each other. So it's not triggering a scenario where there's excessive growth. So it's a nourishing circle, and it's called a destructive circle, but it's not necessarily destructive unless it's imbalanced. So those 5 elements really, really, really are key. And it's not just that it's those elements which are relevant, it's also what is associated with these elements. And those elements are associated with various organs and functions within our body, even with regard to emotional states and personality expression and behavior. And they're also correlated to potential diseases within our bodies. So it's emotions which are connected, it's emotional states, it's potential diseases when they're malfunctioning or imbalanced. They're also associated with seasons like summer, winter, etc. And they're also associated with senses and with tastes. So, and also with colors, numbers. so much. It's so exciting to look more into that, because maybe even adding a little bit more of that specific taste or that specific color in your nutrition can already help to rebalance those 5 elements within your body. But that's already taking something from another episode or future episodes into this one. Let's keep focusing on the 5 elements. And as I mentioned, those elements also represent organs. The water element, you might imagine, it's the water system within our body, specifically our bladder and our kidneys. And these are key on how to regulate, how to harmonize, how to control and monitor and manage our hydration within our system. And it's so relevant because lots of our body is dependent on the fluid levels. Also, and especially our brain, even a 2% decrease in hydration can have massive impact on our brain, on our cognitive function, and on our well-being. So hydration, super, super important. That's the water element. The wood element, the wood element is associated to the liver and also the gallbladder. So liver and gallbladder, they're the elements or the organs of the wood element. And yeah, we'll look into the emotions in a second, but let's stay with the organs first. Fire is your heart. Like you can open up your heart, you're on fire, it's exciting. That's your heart energy. Fire is your heart. Then we have earth. Earth is your spleen. And with spleen, it's not specifically and only spleen, it's the digestive system, how you absorb nutrients. It's not the intestines, because small and large intestine again are associated with other organs, but the spleen represents really how we can break down and absorb the nutrients. And if that's impeded, it has a huge impact on everything on our body, how we're processing glucose, if we're developing insulin resistance, if we can produce ketones, where we store fat, how our stresses are reacting. There's a lot of impact if our spleen energy is impacted as well. And then we have the metal element, and the metal element represents the lungs. And the lungs are so important for a healthy heart, for healthy kidneys. And I mean, just try not breathing for a minute and you will feel, oh, if my lungs are not functioning, my body is not functioning. So the lungs are very, very, very essential. And I wasn't aware of that until I did a professional fasting. I wasn't aware that lots of toxins within our body are exhaled. They are released from our body through the lungs. Also lots of fat burning. The leftovers, like your exhaust pipe in the car, that's what the lungs are doing. They release all the toxins into the air, and it's not only going outside through your digestive tract or through sweating or skin loss. It's a huge part of releasing toxins is taken care of by the lungs. So it's really important also to have healthy lungs. Or if you're not having healthy lungs, you probably notice that you have many things here and there which are impeding your health and your well-being. Now, those were the 5 elements, how they nourish each other, how they kind of keep each other in track, and what organs they are connected to. And now let's connect them to emotions. And you might already have thought about some emotions when listening to these organs. And I would say there's 2 circles of emotion, just as there's 2 circles of the 5 elements. There's 2 circles of emotion, and one is more commonly known. When you Google images of the 5 elements, you usually see those emotions first, and I will share them first. But there's also another circle of emotion which really can tell you, are you in a good balanced state, or what it can feel like when you are having a good balance between those 5 elements within your system. The common emotions, really reduced to just kind of one emotion. It's for water, it's fear. Like the kidneys and bladder, it's fear. If you've been really anxious as a child, or something very stressful just happened or is about to happen, it's very likely you need to pee, or you peed your pants. Like, oh, I peed my pants. That's usually caused by fear. So fear is associated with the bladder and the kidneys. With the wood element and the liver element and the gallbladder element, it's anger. It's like, anger. It's like in German there's a saying, oh, did a tiny bug run across your liver when you're really aggravated? So it might not be a tiny bug, it might be a giant bug, but when you're really angry, that's your liver energy when it's not in a good balance. Then we have the then we have the fire energy. And as I mentioned, the fire energy represents the heart. And usually that is associated with joy. But since fear and anger were not really like the healthy, let's strive for those emotions, kind of emotions, at least not in a permanent state, joy kind of sounds good, but this is more the joy like too much, like you're really on fire and you don't know that you're so overjoyed that it's exhausting you already. So it's too much of that energy. Then when we look at earth, it is worry, like concerns, circling thoughts. It's worry, like you're really, what would happen then? Oh, I don't know if I should. I don't, like worry. That represents the earth element. The earth element was connected to our digestive system, to our spleen and stomach. And then we have metal, and metal, as I mentioned, is connected to the lungs. And in the lungs, according to traditional Chinese medicine, there is grief. Grief, sadness, sorrow, melancholy. Those emotions are carried within the lungs. So also for that, it's so important to get fresh air, get your exercises. So if you have sad experiences in your life, like if you've lived a life you have those and had those, but you can also let them go through your lungs. So that's like the more unhealthy circle of the emotions representing the 5 elements. And also they nourish one another. So if you have worry, you likely have fear. If you have fear, you might be more easy to get angry. or like overheated or sad or experience a roller coaster of any of those. So those, if you experience excessive amounts of those feelings, it can be signs that your elements are not in a good balance and that you can pinpoint down where to look at. Now let's look at the more healthy, balanced, harmonious cycle of the emotions, representing those 5 elements and representing those organs. The bladder and kidney, which was negatively associated, if it's too much, with fear, is positively associated with wisdom. What comes with older age as we go into perimenopause and postmenopause? Wisdom. So that's also connected to the bladder, the kidney, and the water element. The wood element connected to the liver is also connected to the anger, but also, when it's balanced, when it's nourished well, to compassion. So if you sense compassion, I don't give a what other people are feeling or thinking, I'm thinking about myself, and it might be really difficult to live compassion, but that can be a sign that something's at odds with your liver energy. When it's in a good balance, it's easy to feel a natural sense of compassion. Fire energy, as associated with the joy already in the other circle, but instead of this overjoy, which is stressing yourself, this is a healthy joy. This is the joy which you can share and which is also reciprocated by others and not just thrown at them and they think, oh, wow, that was repelling. So that's a nice joy which you feel and sense and can share with others. Then the earth element and the spleen, like the stomach, which was connected to worry, is connected in the positive sense to trust. Isn't that sweet? Trust. Trust in yourself, trust in others, trust in life, trust in systems. Trust, sensing that. If you find it difficult to trust people now that you're progressing in age, maybe that's connected to your spleen and your stomach and how you can absorb or no longer absorb well all those nutrients which your body is needing. So we had wisdom, compassion, joy, trust, and with metal, which is connected to the lungs, which is connected to sorrow and grief, it is connected also in a more balanced, healthy system and cycle to integrity or to your own authenticity. And I've noticed that that was a part which really was at odds because I knew who I was, but I could no longer be who I was. And it was a weird thing of who am I? And if that's what was already difficult to me, I'm pretty sure it was difficult to other people as well. So if you experience some things about my integrity, even though I don't purposely change something, but it's at odds, it could be that your lung energy is impaired. And that can be for various reasons. It can be that it's your lung energy itself. It could be, as we've had the 5 elements, that the fire energy of your heart is just too strong, that it's kind of breaking down your lung energy, or that you do not have enough earth energy, you do not have enough spleen and stomach energy to actually nourish. Like the earth was nourishing the metal, that you have enough energy to nourish your lung energy. There's so many things to look at, and it's more, instead of finding this is the one remedy, it's rather looking at how is that connected? Do I notice those effects within my body? Do I notice maybe that I'm, instead of sad, I'm not really sad in a way, but I do sense that I'm also not really integer anyway? Then I can look at, might it be my spleen? Might it be my heart? Or is it maybe that my kidney energy is just too strong, sucking up too much of my lung and metal energy? So that's for this session, to lay a foundation, to give a basic framework on the 5 elements, how they're connected to our organs, how they're connected to emotions, like the more healthy, balanced, each other nourishing system, and the one where you notice, ooh, this is so obvious that something's odd in the system. And now bringing it back to perimenopause, like fear. Should I take the job offer? Should I do this? I don't know. Or I don't trust my capabilities anymore. I'm worried. My thoughts are circling. I'm suddenly angry at people without there being any reasons. Or I'm sad because I cannot eat my soup at the seat where I wanted to eat the soup and I start crying. So if you notice any of those weird things, which many women do, it's a sign that your 5 elements are no longer in balance. And bringing them back in balance can help you bring yourself and your body into a state where it can heal itself again. And again, connecting to another episode, one thing which you can start today is really get your sleep. And get your sleep, be in deep sleep at least before 11 p.m. so that you have this good 2-hour window from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. where you're ensuring that you're in deep sleep. That will have a tremendous effect on how your body can restore and regenerate and heal. But also, all the other time windows are also very, very important. But this is one step which you can start today. Yeah, another step is look into what have you noticed of the more positive emotions and of the more disturbing emotions. Are you feeling that you're super angry again and again and with no reason at all, or that you're worried suddenly and you've never been a worrier? That can be signposts to indicate where you might find solutions for your well-being. I'm curious to hear what you thought about this, how it can help you along your perimenopause and menopausal journey, and I'm looking forward to see you next time.